You're listening to The Head Trash Show with me, Alexia Leachman, author of Clear Your Head Trash. Head Trash is the home to the head trash clearance method, which you can use to get rid of the fears, stresses and anxieties in your life. Every week I'll be sharing insights, stories and interviews to inspire you to clear your head trash so that you can find calmness, confidence and clarity in your life and work. To find out more about clearing head trash and creating a headspace, head over to clearyourheadtrash.com. And now for today's show. Hello and welcome back to the Head Trash Show. Now, it's been a while since I've put out a podcast and there are some really good reasons for that, pandemic aside. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, but really what I want to talk about today is pursuing your dream life and all the head trash that comes up for you when you do that. And I'm going to be speaking entirely from personal experience because the reason that I have been absent or inconsistent with my head trash work and this podcast is because I have been pursuing the dream and going all in with the dream. So let me just share with you what my dream for my business and my life has been for quite a while and for our family. And that has been to live somewhere gorgeous and sunny near the sea, somewhere like the south of France. And so we decided a couple of years ago that we were going to pursue our dream to leave the UK and move to France near the sea. And that's what we did. We went to go and see a house in the June, and by the end of July we were packing up the whole house in the UK, packing up the cars, and we went. And it was as quick as that. And this journey that we've been on for 2 years has been fun, scary as hell, challenging in so many ways, but I would not change it for the world. But it's been fraught with head trash, and I want to lift the skirt, if that's an appropriate saying, lift the lid on what it's like to chase your dream and to make it a reality. And even though it sounds romantic and fun and things that you always want to do, I'm going to be honest with you, it's been really hard work and really challenging, terrifying and disruptive and all of these things. So I just want to talk through some of this with you so that you can have an understanding of what it is like to chase your dream life. And maybe I've gone about it completely wrong. I don't know, but we're all different and we're all starting where we're at, right? So I'm just going to be completely upfront with you and share with you what my journey's been like. And maybe something in there maybe might inspire you, or maybe there's something that resonates with you, I don't know. So when we first arrived in France, it was the winter before the pandemic. Now, when I first got here, we found ourselves in a village that was super dead. I mean, rural France is known to be dead, the deadest of the dead. And we found a village. We didn't realise when we came to see the house that it was so dead. I mean, when I say dead, I mean, I would go for walks around the village all the time because the countryside was lovely, and I would meet more animals than I would human beings. And I made quite a few friends with about 8 donkeys and a horse and a couple of dogs. They always came to see me when I walked past the fields, but I didn't see any human beings. So isolated would be a really good word to describe that, and alone. And, I really wanted to kind of make friends with people in the school playground, for example, and for my kids, and meet some other mums. That wasn't really possible because there's like 2 other people in the school playground. It was a village school with not many kids, and so I wasn't able to make some connections like that. And I'm not a huge fan of small talk, even though I love chit-chatting away on a podcast. Small talk is not my thing. And when I got to France, I realised that it's a French thing. And I'm half French, so maybe that's why I don't like small talk. But nobody talks to each other in the school playground in French schools. But at least the other 2 mums weren't really up for that. So feeling alone and isolated was very much where I was at, having made this decision to leave the country. And I wrestled with that and I struggled with that a lot. And I did a lot of head trash clearance. So if you're new to this podcast and you're wondering what is head trash clearance, this is the technique that I've developed that clears your head trash. And you can find out all about it at clearyourheadtrash.com/head trash clearance method. And in my book, Clear Your Head Trash. So I was using the I was clearing head trash like a demon possessed, because I was really struggling with the isolation and the loneliness and the idea that of like, what the hell have you done? Like, all seems so romantic and so wonderful on paper, but now you're living it and it's a nightmare. So why have you uprooted your family and done all this? So I worked a lot on themes of loneliness and isolation, and I really kind of had to go inward and really explore a lot of this. Now, this happened to be really, really useful work to do, because little did I know what was going to happen in the February after we moved. And I'm, of course, referring to the coronavirus pandemic, where suddenly we were all stuck at home, facing isolation, being alone and being trapped in our homes. And I'd been really experiencing this since September. So I'd worked on a lot of that stuff, and also uncertainty, which is a huge, huge theme that I think we're all wrestling with right now. But certainly I was wrestling with massively at that stage, having decided to move to this, this place in France, and then thinking, well, do we want to live here? Is this where we want to stay? There's so much uncertainty. We only had the house that we rented for a short period of time until the following summer, because it was a summer-let property that we had over winter. So it was all very transitionary and temporary. So there was this real sense of total uncertainty, like, where are we going to be after April? We have no idea. We have to find somewhere. Or we have to go back to the UK. And I hate going backwards. I don't know about you, but I hate going backwards. So this theme of uncertainty, of isolation and alone and being out of my depth and being in a very unfamiliar environment, was really pushing a lot of triggers, surfacing a lot of fear for me, which I had to work through. Then when the pandemic hit, obviously that was interesting. We all had our own experiences and had to deal with that in all sorts of ways. In France, France reacted a little bit ahead of the UK in terms of locking down and sending children home. But we had a day's notice, 2 days notice from when the Prime Minister said, right, schools are home. So suddenly, I think I just brought out my podcast at that point. And then I was like, oh, I'm working from home with kids at home. I'm homeschooling in French. There's no way I can maintain a podcast, let alone client sessions. I mean, my work just ground to a halt. It was a nightmare. The house we rented wasn't big enough for me to have my own office. So I was working out the dining room. So now I had 2 kids at home watching Aladdin on repeat. There was no chance of me recording any kind of podcast or doing anything remotely useful work-wise. So I had to struggle with all of that as well. I'm sure many, many people had to wrestle with that as well during the pandemic. And how do you juggle the home, the work, the family, the kids' needs, the homeschooling, that everything was just suddenly was feeling incredibly pressured. And I know if I had not worked on all of my head trash, on the trapped feelings, the uncertainty, the isolation, the loneliness, if I hadn't worked on all of that in the autumn before, I think I would have suffered a lot more with the pandemic when it hit. But as it happened, when it hit, I was able to deal with it much more easily. Now, I'm not going to say it was easy, because it was really difficult having to juggle. And the mum guilt really kind of came to the fore, where I was feeding them screens and, watch Aladdin again, like, do this so I can go have my call upstairs. And I was hiding in bedrooms trying to have client calls. And it was really hard juggling all of that. And of course, they were learning a new language, and I'm the only one that speaks French in the house. So that task fell on me to help them with homeschooling. So the pressure, the overwhelm was quite significant. But I think it was much easier because the uncertainty aspect, the isolation had been already worked on. So, so we were in France, and we decided we weren't going to stay in this place in Western France because it was too dead. But we also couldn't go and see anywhere because we were in lockdown. So we couldn't go and visit any of the towns. We couldn't visit any of the properties. We couldn't do anything like that. So we all had to do it online. And that made it very, very difficult. But it also meant that we were suddenly looking at vast swathes of the country to look for places to rent, because in France it's very difficult to rent property easily. My experience in the UK put me in a false sense of optimism of like, oh, it's all right, we'll just go online, check out a few houses and get it sorted. In France is nothing like that. So, we were kind of like looking at the whole of the south of France at places to live, which is quite a large country when you start looking at it in that way. And of course, we didn't know any of these places really well. And it's difficult when you're thinking, well, we're going to move the family over here. We don't even know what it's like. So this was the situation we were in. We had to take a house that we only saw online, that we hadn't visited. The house that we'd already fell through 4 days before I was driving over with a van with all our stuff. So I had to pick this new house, drive all our stuff over. We hadn't even seen it. So we've been in this other house in September, and this house looks lovely online. Let me tell you, it's a summer rental. It's got a pool, which is one of the reasons why we wanted it. It's in Provence, which is an amazing place to live. Let me tell you, it really does tick all the dream boxes in terms of location, but the house itself has been super challenging to live in because when winter comes, it's really cold, really dark, really damp, and it's on a main road in the village, which makes it super noisy. So I'm currently hiding in the bedroom recording this podcast, hoping that any of the big lorries that drive to the local quarry won't be heard on the mic, because there's been nowhere really in this house for me to even record a podcast, especially in the winter where the room I'm in now was absolutely glacial. I've basically spent all winter wearing 6 jumpers, sitting under blankets, freezing my butt off, and it's been horrid. And what's been interesting about that in terms of head trash is how my environment has been so it's determined my head. It's really created or triggered a lot of head trash for me. And the feeling cold, wearing the same clothes over and over again, because I haven't got a massive, extensive winter wardrobe. I don't have the kind of wardrobe that means I can sit at 12, 14 degrees inside for months on end and have I haven't got an Eskimo's wardrobe. So having to wear the same stuff over and over again and not be able to warm up was really, really tough. They put a wood burner in, but it really didn't touch the sides because it was really cold here. And how that made me feel, how that added to the uncertainty, the isolation, all those feelings of that have just been a recurring theme, I think, for many of us because of the pandemic, but also for us because we were moving so much and going for this dream life, that it really wore me down. I have to say, it really wore me down. And I went inward. I had to kind of retreat in my cave. I felt like I was living in an actual cave because it was dark, damp and cold. But actually, I was also retreating into my own cave in terms of questioning everything. We've pursued the dream life. What does that mean? What does that mean for me in my work? I had built a business that was online that I could do from anywhere. And yet, during this pandemic, I made a very, very big decision with my business. For the last 6-7 years, I've been working in the pregnancy and birth space, applying the head trash method to helping women overcome tocophobia, perinatal anxiety and depression, and helping them to avoid having difficult birth experiences. In fact, have amazing birth experiences, which is what I had. But I was feeling like that was coming to the end of the road for that. My heart wasn't in it as much. Even though I've got a book, I've got lots of a podcast that's been listened to and downloaded more than 1 million times in that line of work. And yet I was feeling called to ditch it, walk away from it. And that was really tough. I didn't want to. It was like kicking your baby out to the curb, quite literally. And I was like, well, no, I've kind of nurtured this and birthed it, and it's grown and it's a fine child, and you want me to put it on the street and leave it and abandon it? So I really struggled with that. And this is one of the things I was wrestling with during the pandemic, was parking my birth work, still and honouring it and doing work in that area, but pushing it into the background. And I really wanted to bring head trash into the foreground, but having to let go of a huge part of my work was very difficult. And having all of these moving challenges was adding to that. So, so back early this year when I had to get into my cave, I had to go inward. I had to question everything. And is this right that we've moved to the south of France? Is this going to be right for my business? Is this going to be right for the family? Thankfully, the kids were learning French brilliantly. They were settling into school, because that was a big litmus test for us, is if the kids aren't happy, we really need to revisit this. But the kids, every time I checked in, do you want to go back to the UK? Do you want to stay? It was always big fat yes for stay in France. So that was huge weight off our shoulders. But nevertheless, I had to figure out, what did my business look like going forward? What does head trash look like going forward? When I was previously very heavily involved in my head trash work under this brand, it would look very, very different. The world was very, very different. I was very different. But in the intervening years, when I was 6-7 years in pregnancy and birth work, I've evolved my thinking. I've developed the technique a lot more. I've got a lot more learning and how it can be applied and used in different ways. I've managed to find lots of shortcuts and ways of making it quicker and easier to use. And so I really wanted to bring that back to my head trash work and bring that to the rest of the world, for want of a better word, not just keep it in the pregnancy and birth world, but allow that to be used in the business world, in sports world, in any other aspects of our life where we are wrestling with head trash. And to be honest, we all wrestle with it, don't we? Head trash isn't something that some of us can go, oh yeah, that's not me. Some people say that, but they are in total denial, okay? We all have elements of it. Some of us have got a boatload of it and we're struggling with things like depression and anxiety, while others of us have just got occasional bouts of it because we're in that total flow zone. We're on fire, we're kind of nailing everything. But let's face it, not everyone is at that total flow zone, are they? Most of us are at that struggling, bouts of stress, bouts of anxiety, bouts of depression, maybe full on in some cases where you might be taking medication or wrestling with mental health conditions. But for me, everybody can benefit from clearing their head trash. And what came to me during my pandemic is I had some people approach me going, well, can you help me with my business? I've seen you do this birth stuff. Does it work for business stuff? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, this technique eats fears for breakfast. If it can clear a fear of pain while you're in labour, your fear of public speaking, not a problem. It'll eat that for breakfast. It'll be, it's really, absolutely it'll work. So I started working with business people and that was so much fun. And I loved it. And the results that people were getting in their business as a result of clearing the head trash really stunned me because I hadn't really appreciated the potency of the head trash clearance method in the context of business. And my background is business, my background is marketing. So this was very exciting to me. So I was really last year very exploring, being adventurous with head trash, trying out different things for size. But when we arrived here in the south of France and I was freezing my butt off, I went in my cave and I had to make sense of all of this. What does this look like? What am I going to be doing this with going forward? And the one thing was really clear to me is I wanted to make head trash clearance really easy and affordable and quick because people don't have the time to piss around clearing their, managing their anxiety. Meditation's wonderful, right? But it doesn't fix your anxiety. It doesn't address the root cause. It's a sticking plaster. Mindfulness, ditto. So these are really great practices if you want to maintain a level of mental health. But if you want to really move the needle and knock your anxiety out of the park, they will not be the things that will do that for you. But head trash clearance can, right? When I've been working with my clients, I can be knocking anxiety out the park in about 3 months. There was a lady that came to me for birth fears, and she also had OCD. And I said to her, look, we're not going to be working on your OCD. This is really a birth fear program that you've decided to sign up for. She was like, yeah, no, I know. But nevertheless, we managed to reduce her OCD, in her words, by 80% in the few months that we worked together. And we weren't even trying because that is the potency of the method. You can read all about her story of reducing her OCD on the website, on the Clear Your Head Trash website. There's a blog where she shared her story. It's Becky's story of reducing her OCD. So this is a technique that really does move the needle. And I felt a real sense of responsibility that I really needed to take this seriously, to step up, to sort my own stuff out, to make sure that I could do what was needed to make sure that as many people as possible can benefit from head trash clearance. But what did that look like? I had no clue, right? I didn't know. So I needed to figure this out. I was also invited to pitch to investors for some things that I'm developing as well. So this kind of planted some seeds in my mind. And so this is what I've been doing quietly in my cave. And I've figured a lot of this out. There's still a lot to be worked out, let me tell you. But I figured a lot of it out. And I figured enough of it out that I feel okay coming back out and being more vocal and visible and out there. And I think it ties in, interestingly, with the arrival of the sun here in the south of France. It's amazing how I am so responsive to the climate. I think because this house doesn't have heating, that was a huge part. But isn't that interesting how my head trash and my own sense of self was so related to my being cold and dark and this environment that I was in. I was very, very tuned into the environment. And if it wasn't right for me, it really kind of sapped my creativity, sapped my confidence, sapped my wanting to be out there and all of that. So that's behind me now, and we are looking for somewhere else to live because I'm not doing another winter in this house. We've decided that we really would like to stay in the south of France because we visited other parts of France and they all look gorgeous, but nothing quite looks like Provence. And it's amazing when me and my other half, we're having conversations about the scenery and how it's not close enough to the Mediterranean. And, well, we really like these cypress trees here. They're beautiful. There's little trees that look like little paintbrushes. And they're just so gorgeous. And the first time I saw them here, I cried because I realised that this was the image of my dream. When I'd been thinking about my dream life, you imagine those Tuscan paintings, the famous paintings by those artists and those scenes of Tuscany. Well, Provence just looks like all of that. And suddenly when I got here, I realised oh my goodness, this is the world of my dream. And I feel emotional just talking about it, just thinking about that, because it's so incredible to actually bring your dream from your mind, where it is just, our dreams do stay in our mind. To actually step into it in reality is a really magical experience that I am getting emotional. You can probably hear it in my voice. It's really mad. And I would encourage you to just go after your dream. This is not an easy one for us because we both have our businesses. Our businesses have been whooped by the pandemic like you wouldn't believe. Both me and my partner, I've been pivoting away from the birth stuff into this and getting lost along the way, having to homeschool. It's been a rough journey, okay? And I'm sure not helped by my head trash, because I am confident that the reason I was gifted this technique, this head trash clearance method, is because it needed to be gifted to somebody who could test it and use it a lot. And that was me. That is me. I have a lot of head trash and I'm always clearing it. And I'm always wondering, what is it? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not acting in this way? Why am I shunning away from this? Why am I backing away from it? Why am I fearful of this? I'm always asking that question because I'm not somebody that has all the answers. I haven't got it all figured out. And so I'm constantly using head trash clearance on myself. And I've been experimenting with it, having lots of fun, using it in lots of new ways. And there are some really interesting ways that you can apply this to your mindset, to your head trash, to your beliefs, to all of that. And this is what I really want to bring people on that journey so that other people can benefit from clearing their head trash and the magic that awaits, because it really is. When you clear stuff, it is nuts, the results that you get and how quickly they happen. But I want you to try it. And so I want to make this easy for you to try it. So one of the things I've come up with is a really easy way. I wanted to think about an app, a bit like the Headspace app, a bit like the Calm app, but instead of accessing meditation, you're accessing head trash clearance. So I'm developing that in the background. I've got a version of that is kind of going through testing at the moment. And I want people to, obviously test it and get on board. So if you're interested in joining what I've called the Clearance Club for now, then do find me at clearheadtrash.com and you can be part of that journey and start clearing your head trash from a very, very low monthly price. That means you can access it without having to work with me. Because what I really want to do is ensure that how can I, the questions I ask myself as the founder, as the developer of head trash is, how can I take me out of the equation? I don't want people to have to hire me to clear their head trash. Or, what you can do is hire me or hire one of the people I train. If you're a therapist or a coach, you can train in head trash clearance and add it to your toolbox of techniques. But not everybody can afford that. And I don't want head trash clearance to be reserved for those with money. I want it to be available for everybody. And obviously, if you want the one-to-one version, the one-to-one support, then yes, you're going to have to pay for that. But if you want to kind of dip your toe in and have the app version, where you can kind of work your way through your own stuff at your own pace on your own and all of that, then yeah, that should be available for you. So that is what I'm developing. That's what I want to create to make sure that everybody who wants to clear their head trash can clear their head trash. Of course, not everybody is interested, are they? Some people love their head trash. They love their fears and they want to keep their fears because their fears keep them safe. Our fears are good. So let's not, talk badly about fears. They're there to help us survive. But some people take their fears a little bit too seriously and wrap them around themselves to keep them safe. And that can keep them trapped in a place that might not be entirely pleasant for them, but it's familiar and so they stay there. what I'm creating is not for those people, because I want you to jump in and want to clear your head trash. And so if that's you, then I've been coming up with some interesting and fun ways for you to do that. Now, fun, let me talk about fun. I really think that mental health is talked about a lot with a sad look on face, with a long face, with a horse face. And yes, it is a crap place to be when you're struggling with mental health. So I'm not taking away from that at all. But I don't think that clearing your head trash needs to be a horrible process. I want it to be fun. I want it to be fun, and it can be. And whenever I work with people one-to-one, I try and make it as fun as possible. And I do have, even when I'm working with people on their fear of death, we have big laughs because. So it doesn't have to be, just because our mental health is a serious matter, it doesn't mean we have to take the clearing of it, the sorting it out seriously, and not have levity and fun in that process. And that's what I want to do with head trash clearance, is to make sure that as much as I can, is to make that process inviting and fun and easy. So this is what I'm focusing my attention on, is all of those things. I want to take head trash clearance to all corners of the mind, all corners of the globe, so that we can start benefiting from it in all sorts of exciting ways. So that's my dream for my business. That's the dream for my life. So I've been busy building the dream life, building the dream business. Maybe I should have built the dream business first, made a ton of cash, and then done the life. Maybe that would have been a whole lot easier. But I didn't want to hold off on the life. I wanted to have the life now, because I didn't want to wait. Maybe I need to clear my impatient head trash. And I still feel at the moment that I have kind of leapt off the cliff, and I'm waiting for the bridge to build itself. And I'm at the moment staring at a ravine as I'm jumping down, thinking, where the hell is the bridge? Where are you, bridge? Build yourself quickly. Because there is no going back. We've put our house on the market. It's currently, we've got people buying it. We will soon have no house in the UK. We will soon be kicked out of our house here in France. The uncertainty that we're going through right now is nuts. And if I hadn't done all my head trash clearance work, I think right now I'd be really, really struggling. But I am committed to doing this. I'm committed to taking head trash and making it really easy for everybody. And I really want you to come on this journey, because I've seen so many people benefit from clearing their stuff. And I want you to come along. If you want to clear your head trash, then get in touch. Let me know what you're wrestling with. I could figure out a way of coming up with something that's going to work for people just like you. I just need to know what your needs are. I'm all ears. I am all ears. So do come, and I have a Facebook group, the Clear Your Head Trash Facebook group. If you've read the book, that is going to be the best place to start. If you are interested, read the book, Clear Your Head Trash. In there is the head trash clearance method. You can start clearing your head trash straight away, because I share it all in the book. And for those of you that are interested and are kind of curious as to what that process involves, basically you need to identify the head trash you want to clear. And then what you need the head trash clearance mantras, which is a script. It's a 10-line script that you need to clear each individual thing. And I show you how to write that script in the book. And then you say the script yourself. That's it, basically. And so clearing one thing can take anything from 5 minutes to half an hour. And that's what it is. And so when you're clearing something like anxiety, for example, you might have 40, 50 things on your list that you need to clear. So that's 40 times half an hour, sometimes it gets longer. That's the kind of time investment that you need to think about if you want to be clearing something like anxiety. The tocophobia work I've been doing, which is the extreme fear of birth and pregnancy, for example, people that are suffering with tocophobia typically have around 20 to 30 things on their clearance list. So that's 30 different individual clearances where they would need to spend half an hour on each one. So, and then when you've done that, you are clear of it, like you literally are free of it. So this is time well spent. You're not kind of sitting around listening to meditation repeatedly for the next year and still wrestling with the stuff that's causing this anxiety in you. No, you're actually knocking it out the park. So it's time worth investing if your mental health and your happiness and your joy and all of that is really, if that's what you want, right? Who doesn't want to get to their happy place? What does your happy place look like? When you think about what your happy place is it mainly an emotional, mental place? Is it a physical place? Is it an environment, like a place like we've come to our happy place? We've found our happy place in the south of France, and now we've just got to make it work. What does your happy place look like? Give that some thought. What fears come up for you when you think about, okay, if I'm going to get to my happy place, what do I need to overcome? What do I need to do? How does that make me feel? For many people, the prospect of clearing their head trash is deeply terrifying. I've worked with so many people that struggle with taking that first step of clearing their head trash. And that's why when I work with people, I end up doing most of my kick butting before the first session that they have. Like, have you cleared this yet? Have you done the first one yet? Have you done your first clearance? And they really hesitate. They really struggle to get in because their head trash is guarding itself. It's protecting itself. When your fears are really strong, they sabotage you. They get in your way to stop you from getting rid of them. They've got self-preservation. Some fears have got that going on. They've got a life of their own and they do not want to die. And so when faced with a technique like head trash clearance, they will bring out all the big guns to protect themselves. And that shows up as massive sabotage. So that's where working with somebody can help you to get over the first hump. So, So if you have bought the book and you've dabbled with, and you haven't quite got round to clearing some of your head trash, that's probably what is going on for you. Anyway, I'm going to stop now because I have been wittering on for quite a while. But I just wanted to let you know that the podcast is back. Because of my current situation, I cannot guarantee that it will be weekly or any kind of frequency. So I'm going to do what I can when I can. I had a lot of head trash around this. This is why I've not kind of brought stuff out, because I was like, well, I can't be weekly and I won't be able to be consistent and blah, blah, blah. And all the marketing advice says you need to do it consistently and make sure it's the same time every week and schedule it and post it on all the social media platforms. I'm like, oh my God, this was what getting in my way. So I'm just not going to play that game. I'm just going to bring it out when I can. And if there's a little bit of noise in the background, because the truck outside, because I'm in a house that isn't brilliant for podcasting, then so be it. And soon the kids are going to be off for 2 months. Yeehaw! Isn't that going to be great for podcasting? So I might also be wrestling with kids making noises. But this is where I'm at right now. And this is where I'm at. So if you don't like it, then fine, don't listen, right? That's all there is to it. If you're fine with that, then yay, let's do this. And do let me know if you have any questions or thoughts or anything about clearing your head trash. Come and join the Facebook group, because that's where I'm going to be spending time supporting those that are on that head trash clearance journey. So that's it for me today. Until next time, bye for now. Thanks for tuning in. You've just been listening to me, Alexia Legion, here on The Head Trash Show. If you enjoyed the show or the book, Clear Your Head Trash, I'd really appreciate you leaving a review on iTunes or Amazon. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes for more insights, interviews and inspiration for clearing your head trash and reclaiming your headspace. Until next time, bye for now.